He changed the language, called it extremely careless so that he couldn't charge her, said no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary for a fake email server sending classified info all the place. And then, years later, they raid Trump. What a scam. Oh my gosh. I don't know. We can just think through what's happening. Why do you think they're sending subpoenas out? Because they're bored and they just want to do more paperwork?
Do I think that they tried to do exactly to my father what they did to Charlie Kirk, where they shot a good friend of mine in the neck and I see my buddy bleeding to death? Yes, I think they tried to kill my father because they did not want his voice on that stage, and that breaks my heart to say.
20, maybe even 30 subpoenas now flying out, and one of those individuals who's the subject of these investigations is John Brennan, the former CIA director, one of the most corrupt people in the web of Democratic scandals that we've covered here. He now getting probed again, and we're happy to see it. Hopefully indictments coming soon. But it's not just Brennan. We also see that Just the News is reporting that more than 24 Russiagate-related subpoenas are also being sent out, saying these are coming right after James Comey and a huge tranche of documents came out saying burn bags, emails, fake pseudonyms, handwritten notes, all of it. Okay, it's just gobs of evidence. And they were trying to eliminate it and bury this stuff until the statute of limitations expired, which for Comey was like right around the corner, man, barely got charged. Now we see that Just the News has whispers. They say a federal grand jury is in the process of issuing more than 30 subpoenas tied to the Trump-Russia collusion scam that was propagated by our fake intelligence community who has no intelligence or does and are just corrupt. The subpoenas are being sent out as new revelations indicate that Comey, who was already indicted, expected Hillary to win, said President-elect Hillary would be amazing. And then we found burn bags and all the things. Comey is charged with 2 counts, false statements, and obstruction, fired in 17, expected Hillary to win. Watchdogs, including Michael Horowitz at the OIG, criticized the FBI's mid-year exam, saying that Comey basically rigged it. Remember, he didn't tell the DOJ about it. He changed the language, called it extremely careless so that he couldn't charge her, said no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary for a fake email server sending classified info all the place. And then, years later, they raid Trump. What a scam. Comey had said in his speech that they were extremely careless, but no reasonable prosecutor, and then sent a bunch of this crap back and forth to Daniel Richman. We see NBC is also reporting that Brennan is the subject of a lot of this. Say DOJ is also preparing to issue a series of subpoenas as part of a South Florida-based investigation into John Brennan and the probes by the FBI and the CIA into Russia. Lots of people gobbled up in this. The investigation is being supervised by the U.S. Attorney in South Florida called Jason Redding Quinones in consultation with senior staff in Washington. I think that's how you pronounce the tilde there. You know, I'm very diverse. The Justice Department declined to comment, as is standard. The Florida-based inquiry comes 2 years after Bill Barr said, oh no! Bill Barr, remember him? Trump's AG? No election interference at all. No criminal wrongdoing by John Brennan. Bill Barr has his folksy appeal about him. Kind of listening, like, okay, it's Bill, you know, whatever. But man, Bill was a cover-up king during his time there. Whether it's Epstein, Brennan, 2020 election, Bill Barr is complicit. A White House spokesman confirmed the existence of the investigation, and the fact that subpoenas are being prepared has not previously been reported. All new. So hang on tight. Among the topics of interest in the new investigation is the preparation of the 2017 ICA, the intelligence assessment that was fake and rigged. I remember Obama came in, had a little powwow with them. Somebody pulled the presidential daily briefing off his desk. Then he says, yeah, we should look into Russia. And then they made a fake report at the end of December. Obama ordered it. Early January, the real January 6th, new report comes out. It's all made up. What is in the classified annex of the report that nobody can see? Hillary Clinton's Steele dossier, which was campaign propaganda that everybody knew was fake. James Comey knew that it was an HRC plan to tie Trump to Russia. He wrote it in his handwritten notes. John Brennan was in the room. John Brennan lied to Congress, in our opinion, about whether or not the CIA had a role in including that classified annex. He said no, he had nothing to do with it. He pointed his finger back over to James Comey and the FBI. But what the OIG found when they interviewed everybody who was involved in drafting that fake intelligence product is that CIA officers confirmed that Brennan ordered them, overrode them to include that in there, and simultaneously said to them explicitly Implicitly, it rings true, doesn't it? But John Durham also useless. We read your report, John, opening his report like, the DOJ is so honorable and everybody's so amazing over there. And we did our hard work. We couldn't find anything. And then prosecuted Michael Sussman and botched that one. Conservative attorney Mike Davis, who advises the White House and the DOJ, has said in recent weeks that a Florida grand jury will consider whether top Obama and Biden officials engaged in a massive conspiracy. Shout out to Mike Davis. Trump was also federally charged. And Robert Mueller, we had other than an FBI lawyer who pleaded guilty. That was Kleinsmith, I believe. But Trump and his allies have for years claimed that the Justice Department conspired and everybody covered it up. John Durham, that whole thing was pathetic. Now, MSNBC, this dude, Ken Delanian, was like the Russiagate whisperer during this entire time, right? Comey, all these people are leaking to him and guys like him. Says here, in response to this, the Justice Department is preparing to issue a series of grand jury subpoenas as part of its investigations into Brennan and Russian interference that they made up. Being led by Quinones, the Justice Department did not immediately respond. Comes after Bill Barr said that there was no problems here. Mike Davis, that's basically the article. Now, we also then see that he was talking about this over on MSNBC, and they're starting to sound a little bit nervous because journalists, so-called, were on the receiving end of a lot of this material. Here's Ken Delanian.
So, Ken, help me understand, if there were these previous investigations found no criminal wrongdoing involving Brennan, what changed? And what more do you know about this U.S. attorney?
We have actual, not corrupt prosecutors looking into the case, okay? The cover-up is now being exposed. That's how we'll help you understand.
Is a Trump loyalist?
It's someone connected to Pam Bondi down in Florida. Definitely a Trump loyalist. What's changed in part is that there was a criminal referral by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
Let's go.
That when you read it, really didn't make a lot of logical sense. It strung together some things and tried to suggest that there was wrongdoing in the preparation of that intelligence assessment that really didn't stand up. But nonetheless,
it does stand up. I just explained it very clearly. CIA officers say John Brennan forced them to lie about it and shove bad intelligence in there. He said it rings true. He said to Congress that the CIA didn't write it. That's not true. The CIA author who wrote it says, I work for the CIA and I wrote it. So why did he lie about that?
She issued this. She made it public. And that, we understand, is one of the basis for including Brennan in this investigation and suggesting that there's somehow new wrongdoing, newly declassified information, even though John Durham, as we understand it, had access to everything connected to that intelligence assessment and connected to the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigation.
So, Lisa, if they have issued grand jury subpoenas, does this indicate they are, in fact, planning to try to seek an indictment?
Not necessarily, not yet.
Yes.
However, Mike Davis, who is the person that Ken was just referring to, has gone on social media and sort of loudly advertised that in the Southern District of Florida, where Jason Quinones is the U.S. attorney, they're expected to convene a grand jury in late January. Convening of grand juries, Anna, happens all the time. And the fact that it is known, in part, may have to do with the fact that just logistically, a clerk's office has to actually find grand jurors through the normal jury selection process. But why it is that Mike Davis is assigning a lot of importance to that January 26th grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida, leaves people like me and Ken scratching our heads. What do people who are in the MAGA sphere know that we don't know?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. We can just think through what's happening. Why do you think they're sending subpoenas out? Because they're bored and they just want to do more paperwork? They're just going to send a bunch of subpoenas out and then just say, wow, that's very interesting information. Wow, well, this is all very curious. Wow. Or do you think that it is a necessary tool in the furtherance of an investigation leading towards a criminal prosecution? Steve Baker says, hey, we also have an update on the J6 pipe bomber report. So speaking of these probes, these subpoenas, we have a lot of questions from the FBI about a lot of things that we haven't gotten answers on. And the J6 pipe bomber is just one of them. After an abundance of counsel from trusted parties within and outside the government, we've hit the pause button so those interested parties can have some more time to look at the J6 pipe bomber evidence. There are things they need to do internally. This is a real story, he says. When it breaks, it's going to be a huge story. There are a lot of moving parts, but we need to give them the time to do what they need to do. I know everyone is waiting. Believe me, tensions are running high. There have been a lot of sleepless nights the last 2 weeks, but this is a game changer, and we don't want to do anything to jeopardize that right now. I was up at 3:30 a.m. preparing the video clips for release on the morning Glenn Beck program. Contrary to what so many ex-complainers will say, this wasn't a hype stunt for views and clicks, and no, the government didn't silence us. Glenn and I were both pretty amped up to put it all out this morning, and we were both very disappointed when the decision to postpone was made. The government's investigation into the J6 pipe bombs was going nowhere just 2 weeks ago. Today, I can tell you that has all changed. A bunch of people got pretty spun up yesterday. Hang tight, it's all coming. All right, we will, Steve, I know. Here, of course, is one of those videos, and here you can see kind of a little sweat away in the hips, in the walk. See that? And then watch this little fabulous gesture here. Yeah. I want it to be Liz Cheney, but I think that woman's probably, 15 to 20 pounds lighter too, in addition to taller. But Kara Castronova also shared this one. She reports over for the Gateway Pundit. She said, a credible source just told me the J6 pipe bomber was a female Capitol Police officer. I have no more information except to say that I trust this source 100%. The source has spoken to others. They know her identity. I have no choice but to put this out to protect myself. I didn't ask for this information, but because a source dropped it on me, I have no choice but to report what I was told. It's not safe to sleep with secrets. In the end, God wins. From Kara, man, that sounds like she's had a nervous night over there. Now, also, Mayor Muriel Bowser is being investigated over her ties to Qatar. So we've got Comey, Brennan, Bolton, Latish, J6 pipe bomber, Muriel Bowser also makes the cut. Federal prosecutors are opening up corruption investigations. Again, it takes 3 people to write one article. Alan Feuer, Devlin Barrett, and Michael Schmidt. 3 dudes who between the 3 of their heads smashed together an article, and they call themselves journalists. Great job, guys. Federal prosecutors have opened a corruption investigation into Muriel Bowser. The investigation is being handled by a U.S. Attorney's Office. This week, the FBI agent who was leading the investigation was fired because he took part in a criminal inquiry into Trump and the public corruption unit that would have been responsible. It's unclear what's going on. Thank you, guys. What a great article. So here is Stormy Daniels now, and she's somebody else who was part of a corrupt conspiracy to take out the president, turned herself into a goblin.
All that defines me, and the best part about when the people come in, the hecklers or the trolls, is they sit there and...
The trolls? Aren't those your people now?
They don't get any of that until the end. My favorite part of the show is, of course, I do my set, and I talk about everything from my time in my other industry to being a mom, to horses, to, yes, political stuff. But the best part is when people come in tonight, they will get a note card and a pen, and they get to write questions, and it's anonymous but live Q&A. So for those who follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, don't ask something you don't want to know the answer to. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and you see the Dunkin' Donuts coffees on there. Stormy probably put down a couple dozen before the interview. She's like, yeah, no, that sounds great. We got Dunkin' in the back? Perfect. So, yeah, it's just incredible. All right, sorry to share that with you, but we had to. Now, Eric Trump was also out, and he's saying, yeah, my dad got shot in the head, and then they burned the body. We still have no idea what's going on over there either, so maybe the FBI can help get us some info on that too.
I am totally unsatisfied. You had a person with a modern rifle, modern scoped rifle at 130 yards who shot at the former commander-in-chief of the United States and a guy who was going to be, by all accounts at that point, the future commander-in-chief. And then they tried to kill my father 8 weeks later, at his golf course in Palm Beach County, a golf course that I run every single day. I am totally unsatisfied that we have one picture of that shooter. The guy looks like he was 14 years old in the picture. We know nothing about him. I am totally unsatisfied with the result, and I think a lot of America is unsatisfied with the result, and I think we better get to the bottom of exactly what happened.
Are you telling me there's a conspiracy here that you believe that Eric Trump believes resulted in the assassination attempt?
Listen, I think they did everything they could to take my father off that stage. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to impeach him. They tried to take him off the ballots. They tried to silence our votes. They leaked our tax returns. They raided his home. And yes, do I think that they tried to do exactly to my father what they did to Charlie Kirk, where they shot a good friend of mine in the neck and I see my buddy bleeding to death? Yes, I think they tried to kill my father because they did not want his voice on that stage, and they don't want my voice on that stage. They didn't want Charlie's voice on that stage, and that breaks my heart to say, and we better get to the bottom of who this guy was, because we know absolutely, Michael, we know nothing about the guy. We've seen one picture of the guy. I hope there's a really good, thorough investigation, because as a son, as I sit there with my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old on my lap and I saw my father's head almost come off, I remain completely unsatisfied as to who this person was and the guy's intent and why he did it and what was on his cell phone. I remain completely unsatisfied.
Completely. We all are. It was shocking that nothing came of it. So we're happy to see Eric Trump is out there. We're happy to see that there are 20 to 30, maybe 40 subpoenas going out. John Brennan's freaked out. Ken Delanian and MSNBC, they're poking around like, what's going on out there? We don't know. How come so many people are being charged with crimes now? Well, because they're criminals. That's why.